For centuries, scientists have been baffled by how the ancient Egyptians built their pyramids. There are many theories, but none can explain all the evidence. But what if we're looking at this the completely wrong way? In fact, some of the best building materials in the world come from places like the Nile Delta. We know that the ancient Egyptians used water-powered tools to help them build boats and other objects. Well, researchers from the University of Vienna set out to answer this very question. Using computer simulations and calculations, they wanted to determine if a water-powered crane system could have been used to lift the enormous blocks into place on the pyramids. But if they could increase the surface area of the water to 18 meters by 18 meters, they could make the crane capable of lifting the pyramid blocks. The team believes that the ancient Egyptians would have quickly drained the basin and reused the water elsewhere. So while it may seem impossible, researchers believe that the ancient Egyptians could have created a water-powered crane system that could lift and move the massive blocks into place. Of course, this is a lot of water, equivalent to filling up 27 Olympic-sized swimming pools. How exactly did they lift the stones off the ground and into the waiting crane? How did they keep the crane stable and upright? Did they need a flat surface to operate the crane, or could they operate it on an incline? And how did they ensure that the blocks were placed accurately without the use of advanced tools? These are all important questions that researchers hope to answer in the future. But the ancient Egyptians were known to be excellent engineers. If anyone could do it, they could figure out a way to collect and contain this much water. This may sound far-fetched, but let's take a look at the math. Researchers calculated that they would need to pour 35 liters of water per second into the basin to lift the blocks to the top of the pyramid. This required a lot of energy, equivalent to the energy consumption of a medium-sized modern-day company. But again, the ancient Egyptians were masters of hydraulics and already used water to power various machines. It was definitely possible. They would use a large basin of water and then a lever to move heavy stones around. By balancing a stone on one end of the lever and pouring water on the other side, they could raise the stone into the air, making it easier to move in place. Where river silt and sediment create the perfect mixture of clay, silt, and sand. It's incredibly versatile and strong when fired into bricks. It's no wonder the ancient Egyptians chose the Nile Delta as the birthplace of their civilization. What if the secret to pyramid construction has nothing to do with brute strength and everything to do with water? We know that water is essential for life as we know it. And even today, people rely on nearby water sources for farming and building materials. But water was not just useful for creating building materials. This would depend on the amount of water they could pour into the basin. The average Egyptian was about 154 centimeters tall and weighed about 68 kilograms. Assuming they weren't stacking them on top of each other, they could fit about 2 people per square meter. Using the average male height and weight, they found that each person could carry about 13 liters of water. So 2 people would carry 26 liters or 26 kilograms. With 13 of those 26 kilos being usable water weight, they could lift an object weighing 170 kilos. But what if they took this idea and applied it on a much grander scale? First, the team had to figure out how much weight they could lift. However, this wasn't enough to lift the average pyramid block, which weighs around 2.5 tons. Next, they had to figure out how fast they would need to pour the water into the basin. Researchers believe that the entire operation would have taken about 15 minutes to complete. After lifting the block into place, of course, there are still many questions.